practice session earlier this morning, the first of the weekend. Dale Earnhardt Jr. spun. You had Jimmy Johnson go for a looper in turn number 1. Kurt Busch, Danica Patrick, just a couple of the cars that spun earlier today, slowing the session 4 different times in already a short practice session. Teams hoping for some more green flag laps here in this final practice session of the weekend, setting up for qualifying tomorrow morning.
It's going to be even shorter for several teams that have penalties from last week. A 30-minute practice hold in this final practice session for Danica Patrick, for Kyle Busch, for Chris Buescher, and Eric Jones. They all failed 3 times in pre-race inspection last week. So you're talking about 20 minutes. That's all they're going to get in this happy hour practice session with the abbreviated weekend schedule. We're doing again, they'll qualify tomorrow and race tomorrow here at Watkins Glen.
And that 30-minute clock for those 4 teams that you mentioned a moment ago will begin when the driver presents their car for practice. They have to come to the pit lane, stop at the end of pit road in some of the boxes down at the end of the pit lane where NASCAR will hold them for 30 minutes before they're allowed onto the racetrack. The green lights around the racetrack are on and final practice is underway, and those that are allowed to take to the racetrack head that way now.
Must be agonizing for a driver to have to pull down on the end of pit road and sit there for a half hour. Now, today it's a nice day. It's rather cool here at the Glen, but at some racetracks we go to, it is smoking hot down there. And drivers have told me, it's like, you know, if I could stay in the garage and just walk around for 30 minutes, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But sitting in the race car for a half hour, that's a pretty tall order. Plus the anxiety, wanting to find out what's in the car, what it will do, and what it won't do. Covering the action for us here in this practice session in the garage are Alex Hayden and Jack Root. Let's start first with Alex. What are they looking for here, Alex?
Well, tomorrow they qualify, and that is, yes, on race day. Qualify a few hours before the green flag flies in the race tomorrow. Therefore, this is the last opportunity to not only get your car dialed in race trim, but it gives you the opportunity as well to get out there in qualifying trim just to see what kind of sprawl speed you're going to have in your race car. A handful of teams tape up the noses of the as slick as they possibly can through the air to get as much raw speed as they possibly get. So we're going to see a little bit of qualifying trim out there. But mostly those who are not happy with the handling of their practice, this is their opportunity. And there's an awful lot of teams down here with frowns that need to be turned upside down.
Jimmy McMurray and Matt Kenseth among those on the racetrack. We just heard from them. The gentleman on the backside of the car. Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut. Jack Root is here for this final practice coverage.
And Kyle, Alex is on through. Of this first practice session. This is the last time that they get to try and put the car through its paces around the racetrack. Fuel mileage that they in that regard. They need to try and acquire as much data as possible. You got rounds being turned upside down. I did not see a single driver in the first practice satisfied with what they were getting out of their car. Are they being greedy? Or is this sense of urgency the big challenges to this road course? It explains, Kyle, why there's quite a few of these an additional 82 laps in competition. But towards that event, that gives them
It's only something we do twice a year. The high speeds, this is like the super speedway. Drivers actually coming around to complete their first lap in this session. Jamie McMurray is the fastest over practice. And Clint Boyer, as we are underway with here at Watkins Glen, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. And from Watkins Glen Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Looks like Jamie McMurray has a quick time here today. Last time around minute 10, 4:29. Best time. Worked out last lap was his best time. And
Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series practice on the MRN app and MRN.com.
At the Glen early in this practice session. We see Jamie McMurray going to the top. He was good at the first practice session. Now Brad and Truex are second and third. Kurt Busch is fourth. Who was really bad in that first session. Casey Kane, Matt Chambers, and Kevin Harvick make up the rest of the top 10.
In the 15th spot, as we have a smoker on the backside of the course, it appears to be Boris said. That car slow between turn 5 and 6 on that long straightaway heading to the garage, no doubt.
We talked about A.J. Allmendinger a lot of the first practice session as one of those guys who looks at this race as maybe his last opportunity to make it into the playoffs this year. As we mentioned, he wasn't that good early on, but at least in the first couple of laps, Jack Arute won 2 laps so far. He's inside the top 10.
He may be just a little bit happier, but he still says that the car is loose all the way around the racetrack. They're going to continue to make some adjustments. But he was mired in 23rd position in that first practice session. And when you consider the fact that this is a 55-minute practice, and he toured this racetrack in about a minute, 10, 15 seconds, you've only got about 40 laps to figure this thing out for A.J. Allmendinger.
And the red flag is out, so it may be less than that for A.J. due to the smoke for Boris said. Happened at the exit of the inner loop on the backside of the course, and then that smoke continued through turn 5 and up the short straightaway to turns 6 and 7. That car still trying to make its way back to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series garage. Back to A.J. Allmendinger, playoff critical right now, currently 27th in the points, not even close to making it in the top 16 on points, so he really needs this win. Currently 277 points behind Matt Kenseth, who sits in the 16th and final playoff spot.
5 races to go in the regular season before the playoffs start, and he's not the only one that's a bit worried about the possibility of making it into contention for the championship this year. We'll talk more about some of the other players in that category. First, let's follow up on the problem for Boris said in a different ride here this weekend. And Alex Hayden, he says it's probably his last race.
Well, yeah, he said it's his last NASCAR start, and why not doing it right here at Watkins Glen, where he's got that legions of fans called the Said Heads. Of course, Boris known for that curly, almost afro look that he wears on a regular basis. Fans have their wigs to match him, but Boris said the Genesee beer wagon, I think Jack Arute, he had some smoke out on the racetrack, but I think it's far more serious than just smoke.
Indeed it is, Alex. You know where the splitter is on the front end of the car? It is caved in to the point where the front wheels weren't even turning when he pulled on the pit road. He's getting out of the car now and surveying the damage. Boris, can you tell me what happened?
I just went off from the bus stop and went through the grass, and there was a big hole toward the front off.
When you have the lack of the time that you've got to prepare for this race, and with this team, how far does this put you behind the 8 ball?
Pretty far back. You know, the first session we didn't get any laps because we had a little issue with the car, and then this is my second lap around, and I was just pushing hard and made a mistake.
Well, we hope you get it back together.
Boris is driving for the Circle Sport Motorsport Group organization that Jeffrey Earnhardt typically drives for, and he drove the car also out at Sonoma this year. They put him in the car here because he is a road course specialist, but that wasn't one of his better laps at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, right now it's set to be his final start here in NASCAR's Premier Series in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, just getting 2 laps into this practice before going off course on the backside over in the inner loop when he caught that hole and tore up the front of that car. A lot of work to do for that Circle Sport team to get him back out in this practice, and if not, their next laps on the racetrack will come tomorrow morning when these teams will qualify.
Let's talk about the driver who was quickest in the first practice session this morning and also ended a long winless streak with a victory last week at Pocono Raceway, and that is Kyle Busch, a former 2-time winner here at the Glen. We've seen quite a turnaround for Joe Gibbs Racing over the last several weeks, with Denny winning at New Hampshire, then Kyle finishing up with a victory last week. and suddenly things seem to be going in the right direction, Alex Hayden, for Joe Gibbs Racing.
No question about it, specifically with the 18 car and their team, with Kyle Busch, the driver. They've been good enough to win. Let's face it, they've been good enough to win 2, maybe 3 or 4 races to this point in the season, but they've had some discipline issues, whether it's pit road speeding penalties by the driver, problems with the pit crew not getting good clean stops and giving up track position. Whatever the case may be, they've just found ways to lose races as opposed to being the first to the checkered flag. Obviously last week at Pocono, as heard here on the Motor Racing Network, he dominated the event. Coming back here to Glen, he's very excited. The momentum is there.